Chosen one. Listen carefully. This is not another video. This is not something you just scroll past. This is a divine alarm clock, and it's going off inside your spirit. Everything around you has paused because heaven is addressing you. You've been marked for more, and whether you feel ready or not, God is reaching deep into the parts of you that have been quiet for far too long. It's time. You've kept your roar in a cage. You've downplayed your fire so others wouldn't feel small. You've swallowed your voice because rejection trained you to fear your own power. But God never designed you to be silent. He didn't call you to blend in. You were chosen to shake atmospheres and dismantle darkness. And right now, the Spirit of God is awakening the part of you you've silenced because this world can't afford your silence any longer. Look at your life. The battles you faced weren't random. The early childhood wounds, the betrayals, the moments where you felt invisible, those were strategic attacks on your identity. The enemy saw your potential long before you did. That's why he tried to shut you down before you ever discovered who you were. But despite it all, you're still here, breathing, listening, stirring. There's something in you that refuses to die, a flame that never fully went out. Even in your lowest seasons, it flickered. You could feel it late at night calling you higher. You could sense it in moments of silence, when no one else could see your tears. That part of you, that's the part God is calling back to life. You don't need to force it. You don't need to earn it. The anointing on your life is not performance-based. It's identity-based. You are who God says you are, whether people believe it or not. And that truth will always overpower every lie spoken over your life. The Spirit of the Lord is hovering over you now, just like He hovered over the deep before creation began. He's not intimidated by your chaos. He's not avoiding your brokenness. He's speaking into it. In the ancient scrolls, we read these words in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 4. Prophesy to these dry bones, and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. That is what's happening here. The dry places in your soul, the gifts you buried, the dreams you abandoned, the strength you muted, are being called back to life. The voice of the Lord is prophesying to the bones of your calling, and they are rattling, they are aligning, they are rising. Chosen one, you've been quiet too long. You've watched others step forward while you held yourself back. You've talked yourself out of assignments. You've dimmed your light to protect fragile egos. You've let fear win. But fear doesn't get the final word. Faith does. And the faith in you is waking up. This isn't about platform. This isn't about performance. This is about obedience. There is a roar rising inside you, not for your glory, but for the glory of the one who formed you. The same God who spoke galaxies into existence is the one speaking life back into you now. And His word never returns void. You were never meant to be safe. You were meant to be sent. Your silence has been comfortable, but it has cost too much. Every time you stayed quiet when you were meant to speak, someone else stayed bound. Every time you downplayed your calling, someone else stayed confused. But the chain-breaking version of you, the fire-walking, truth-speaking, demon-crushing version is rising now. This is not hype. This is not emotion. This is alignment. And the heavenlies are bearing witness that the time is now. Don't ignore this moment. Don't tell yourself you'll respond later. The pull you feel is the voice of God awakening destiny inside you. If this message has pierced something in your spirit, don't let it pass like every other video. Type 444 in the comments as a prophetic act, a signal to heaven that you receive the call, and a sign to yourself that you will not return to silence. And if this message confirms what's been stirring inside you, like it, share it, comment, and subscribe. Stay connected to what God is speaking. Stay planted where the Spirit is moving. This is not just a message. This is your activation point. You've silenced the roar inside. Not because you were weak, but because the world told you it was safer that way. Somewhere along the journey, you decided that being loud in spirit, bold in truth, and fully alive in your calling was too costly. So you hushed the fire. You dimmed the light. You tucked away the fiercest parts of yourself, the ones meant to lead, to rise, to confront, to heal. And maybe no one noticed. Maybe they applauded the quieter, more agreeable version of you. But heaven did not celebrate your silence, because the roar in you came from God Himself. It was not pride. It was not rebellion. It was purpose. It was prophecy in motion. You weren't born to be silent. You were born with a holy disruption inside your bones. That weight you've carried since childhood, that sense that you could see what others ignored, that deep anger at injustice, that ache when you see pain, that fire that rises when truth is distorted, that was never something to hide. That was heaven crying out through your frame. That was God breathing through your humanity. But life has a way of muting us. When people misunderstand your passion, they call it too much. When you speak truth, and they call it judgment. When your boundaries are labeled selfish, and your discernment called paranoia. Over time, you start to agree with the voices sent to shrink you. And once you agree, you bury what God gave. Not because it stopped burning, but because carrying it alone became too heavy. Somewhere along the line, you decided it was easier to fit in than to stand out, safer to follow than to lead, more comfortable to hide than to speak. But deep in your bones, you knew. You always knew. You weren't meant for smallness. You weren't meant to be palatable. You weren't made to blend in with the crowd. You were made to stand apart, even when it's lonely. God put a roar in you for a reason. It wasn't just for your own freedom, it was for others too. Your roar isn't just a sound, it's a signal. It activates dormant warriors. It wakes up slumbering gifts. It shakes chains off bound souls. And that's why the enemy worked overtime to silence you. If your roar ever returned, hell would lose territory. So he whispered lies that sounded like wisdom. He sent voices disguised as friends, mentors, leaders, voices that told you to calm down, to be careful, to be quiet. Not always with bad intentions. Sometimes even with love. But they didn't recognize what was inside you. They didn't see that your silence wasn't peace, it was torment. That your quietness wasn't surrender, it was suppression. But heaven saw it all. The Lord who formed you in secret knows the weight of what you've buried. He knows the fire you've swallowed. And He's not angry with you. He's not disappointed, but He's calling it out again. You may have silenced the roar, but you didn't kill it. You can't kill what's divine. You can only delay it. And now the delay is over. Everything around you feels unsettled because what's inside you is rising again. That restlessness you feel, it's holy, That sense that nothing satisfies anymore. It's spiritual. You were made to shake systems, not to serve them. You were created to lead, not just to follow orders. And that roar you silenced, it's coming back, stronger than ever. There's a sound that's about to come out of you, and it's going to shift the atmosphere around your life. It's going to break cycles. It's going to wake up every part of your soul that's been asleep. And it won't be loud in volume, it will be loud in authority. Because the roar God placed inside you isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's a whisper that carries thunder. Sometimes it's truth spoken in love. Sometimes it's choosing to rise when everyone expects you to stay broken. That's the roar. That's the power. And you're about to walk in it again. Not because you feel strong, but because God is reactivating what was never meant to die. Your obedience will be the sound. Your courage will be the echo. And your life will be the proof. As the scripture declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 1, shout it aloud. Do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion, and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. You don't need the approval of people who never understood the assignment on your life. You don't need the applause of crowds who never knew the cost of your calling. You just need to yield, to say yes, to stop pretending you're not powerful, to stop hiding behind false humility. You are not arrogant for recognizing what God put in you. You are not prideful for walking in authority. You are finally being honest about who He created you to be. And the roar you silenced, it's waking up. The world will hear it. But first you must. There is a reason darkness fears you. Even before you understood your own calling. Hell could already smell the oil on your life. Before you ever opened your mouth in authority, demons flinched when you entered the room. And it wasn't because of your titles, your degrees, or your following. It was because of your alignment. You were born with a mark on your soul, not a mark of shame, but of fire, a spiritual signature that signals to the unseen realm, this one is dangerous. Not because you walk perfectly, but because you carry truth that exposes lies. Not because you shout louder than others, but because your very existence is resistance against generational darkness. You carry a light that terrifies what hides. That's why people have treated you like a threat before you even said a word. That's why you've been rejected without reason, misunderstood without cause, attacked without warning, not because of something wrong with you, but because of what's right with you. You disrupt patterns without trying. You reveal hidden things just by showing up. You shake structures just by standing in truth. There's a war going on, and you've been on the front lines longer than you realized. You weren't being sensitive when you felt the heaviness others ignored. You weren't imagining things when you sensed the spiritual warfare in a room others called fine. You weren't wrong for feeling exhausted after conversations where everyone else felt normal. You were discerning what others couldn't see. Because the weight you carry isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. And the part of you that kept apologizing for being too much, it was never too much. It was exactly what God designed. But hear this, the reason the enemy tried to exhaust you was to keep you from recognizing how effective you already are, even in your tiredness. If you ever walked in full authority, if you ever truly stood up in your mantle, chains would break in every direction. That's why the resistance increased the moment you got closer to obedience, the moment you started stepping out in truth. The attacks got personal. That wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation. You were born to disturb darkness. But to do that, you have to stop shrinking for the sake of comfort. Stop diluting your discernment to protect fragile feelings. Stop silencing the spirit within you to maintain false peace. You weren't sent to make demons comfortable. You were sent to confront them. God didn't give you eyes to see, so you could stay silent. He didn't give you a sharp sense of truth, so you could hide it in politeness. You were raised up for confrontation, not carnal, petty battles, but real spiritual warfare, not with fists, but with fire, not with rage, but with righteousness. That's why people don't understand you. You're not just a person, you're a threat. Your words carry weight. Your prayers carry fire. And your presence stirs the invisible. When you walk into a place, you don't just enter, you shift it. And that's why the room gets tense. That's why you've been labeled intense. That's why people pull back or suddenly change when you show up. It's not your attitude. It's your atmosphere. Your spirit irritates what's been hiding in theirs. Scripture records in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19, "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." No, this authority wasn't given to be stored away. It was given to be used. And the enemy's greatest fear is not just that you know who you are, it's that you'll act like it. That you'll stop tiptoeing and start trampling. That you'll stop questioning your authority and start executing it. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another sign. This is it. You've been chosen to terrify darkness. And if your spirit knows this to be true, if something deep within you has always sensed you were meant to disturb systems, shift rooms, and expose what's hidden, then comment this now: I shift atmospheres. Not just a phrase, but a truth. You don't carry emptiness, you carry impact. You don't just walk in places, you transform them. Commenting these words is more than participation. It's agreement. With heaven, with truth, with your identity. Because when you shift atmospheres, you don't just change rooms. You change regions. You break patterns. You awaken sleeping destinies. You expose what was hiding. You dismantle what was ruling. You make it impossible for darkness to remain undisturbed. That's what shifting looks like. You are a walking revelation. Even when you don't feel like one. There is something about you that speaks before you ever say a word. The way you carry pain with purpose. How you survive storms without drowning. How you discern truth even in deception. The world may not know how to interpret you, but heaven calls you a message in motion. Every room you've entered, every season you've survived, every betrayal you've endured, it has added weight to your spirit. Not the kind that crushes, but the kind that commands. You don't just walk into environments, you reveal what's been hidden. You expose what was tolerated. And even in silence, you announce a standard. People couldn't explain why they were drawn to you or why they felt uncomfortable. That's not personal, it's spiritual. Your life reveals what others try to avoid. You carry clarity. And in a world addicted to confusion, clarity is confrontation. That's why some distanced themselves, why others tried to label you, why you felt isolation, not because you were wrong, but because you were right too soon. They weren't ready for what you carried, and you weren't meant to water it down to keep peace. You tried to explain yourself, to justify your weight, to shrink your truth into something others could tolerate. But you were never called to dilute your revelation to match someone else's resistance. Your life is a message, God is still writing. Even when you feel messy, even when your emotions swing, you are still becoming and still obeying. And that alone makes you a threat to darkness, because the enemy knows what others don't. You were never just a person, you were a prophecy. Your existence is an answer to prayers prayed long before your birth. The battles weren't just about your past, they were resistance against your future. Every scar tells a story hell hoped would stay silent. But stories speak even when we don't. You're walking, breathing, persevering. Life is a testimony unfolding, and even the dark chapters are sacred. The nights you cried, God was still writing. The mornings you rose numb, heaven still watched with purpose. The days you felt invisible, your name was known in eternity. Your presence is prophetic. Even in waiting, you walk between fire and promise. You carry both sorrow and hope. You live with unanswered questions and unshakable faith. That contradiction is not a flaw, it's a signal. God is doing something the world can't explain but can't ignore. You've always been ahead of your time. You saw through masks before others did. You sensed danger others ignored. That's not anxiety. That's prophetic discernment. But discernment comes with weight. The ache of seeing what others deny. The burden of truth in places that resist it. But again, chosen one. You weren't made to fit. You were made to reveal. And those who reveal are rarely celebrated in real time. They get rejected, questioned, doubted. But that doesn't make them wrong. It makes them dangerous. And you've been dangerous to darkness your whole life. Not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. Even in silence, you carry truth. Even in stillness, you shift things. Even in confusion, you release light. Even in brokenness, you reveal healing. The scriptures reveal in the writings of the prophet Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 2, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. You are living proof that God still speaks through people. You are a page in the unfolding scroll of divine purpose. You may not have a microphone, a stage, or a title, but you have something far greater evidence. Every room you enter becomes a little less dark because you're in it. You didn't survive just to survive. You survived so others could see what survival with revelation looks like. You're not walking out of pain, you're walking into prophecy. Every step proves God's hand is still on you. So, let the misunderstood moments stay misunderstood. Let the silence speak louder than applause. Your life is the message. Your endurance is the ink. And your scars, they are not shame. They are signatures, proof that revelation costs something, and you're still standing. And when people finally see what God has always known about you, they won't just admire you, they'll recognize the God who sustained you. Because in the end, you were never trying to make yourself known. You were always pointing back to the author, and he is not finished writing. You were chosen not to be comfortable, but to be set apart. From the moment God marked your life, he never intended for you to fit into what the world called normal. You were never meant to blend in, never meant to settle for ease, and certainly never meant to chase the approval of crowds. You were born with fire in your spirit and weight in your presence. And with that comes a life that rarely feels simple. You've wondered why your path has been so intense, why others coast through life while your every step feels like resistance, why you're always the one who sees the issue no one wants to talk about. Why you feel heavy in rooms others seem to float through. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're called. Comfort was never your assignment. Impact is. God doesn't call his chosen ones to a life of ease. He calls them to alignment, and alignment will always cost more than comfort ever demands. It will cost your popularity. It will cost your silence. It will cost relationships, convenience, and sometimes even your reputation. But the weight of calling is worth every ounce of discomfort because it breaks cycles, sets captives free, and shakes atmospheres. You were never called to settle in the wilderness. You were called to lead others out of it. This is why your life has been under such pressure. It's not because you're weak, it's because you carry too much to be casual. You've been entrusted with more than most, which means you've been processed deeper than most. And that process, it's proof. God is shaping you, stretching you, refining you, not to destroy you, but to deliver what's inside of you. You can't afford to crave comfort in a season of consecration. The oil on your life didn't come from convenience, it came from crushing, from the places where you bled in secret, from the choices you made in silence, from the times you obeyed, even when it made no sense. Every step you took in faith, even when your legs were shaking, God saw it. And he's been building something in you the whole time. Chosen one. Hear me clearly. The discomfort you feel isn't punishment. It's positioning. You are being positioned for what you were born to carry. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will support it. But that doesn't make it any less real. The calling on your life was never about visibility, it was about obedience. And obedience rarely feels glamorous. It often looks like turning down opportunities. It looks like leaving places you've outgrown. It looks like staying when your flesh wants to run, or speaking when your fear wants to stay silent. This is the walk of the chosen, obedience over applause, purpose over popularity, truth over tradition. And in this walk, you're not walking alone. Heaven backs you. Angels surround you. The Spirit leads you. And every time you feel like giving up, grace meets you right where you are. But grace doesn't always feel like ease. Sometimes it feels like pressure. Because grace isn't just there to comfort you, it's there to prepare you. Scripture records in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." You're not meant to fit the mold. You're not called to conform the way you think. Pray, discern, and lead. It's different because it has to be. What's on your life demands separation. Not separation in arrogance, but in awareness. You don't chase what others chase because you see what others can't. You're not led by emotion, you're led by conviction. And while that walk may feel lonely, it is never without purpose. So, if this message is stirring something in you, don't just let it pass through your feed. Like it, share it, subscribe, not because of me, but because you need to stay connected to the sound of truth in a noisy world. There is a remnant rising. You're part of it. Stay planted. Stay aligned. And if this word has blessed you, and you feel led to sow into what God is doing, there's a way to give. Every seed helps push this message further to reach the other chosen ones still wandering, still hiding, still waiting to hear a sound that wakes them up. Give as you feel led. No pressure, just obedience. Because we're not building a brand, we're building altars. We're not chasing numbers, we're chasing the lost. We're not creating noise, we're releasing clarity. And if you've been searching for a place where your calling is seen, your fire is understood, and your process is not judged, you've found it. Let the world misunderstand you. Let the comfortable mock your sacrifice. Let the noise rise. You just keep walking with fire, because the oil on your life is rare, and rare things are always refined in the heat. The enemy fought your identity early, not because of who you were, but because of who you'd become. Before you could speak, before you had language for your purpose, the warfare began. It came in forms you didn't recognize at the time: rejection, abandonment, confusion, silence, shame. The people who were supposed to affirm you didn't know how. The places that were meant to be safe became battlegrounds, and the words spoken over you. Some were curses disguised as counsel. But even back then, heaven had already marked you. You weren't random. You weren't a mistake. You were always targeted because you were always chosen. And the enemy doesn't waste his ammunition on the average. He doesn't launch attacks against people with no purpose. He only fights those who carry something precious. And you, chosen one, carry something hell has tried desperately to suppress. This is why your identity has always been under pressure. Why you've battled thoughts of unworthiness. Why you've struggled to believe that your voice matters. Why you've questioned whether God could really use someone like you. Because from a young age, the enemy started planting seeds of doubt, hoping you'd never discover what was truly inside you. But what the enemy tried to bury, God is resurrecting. You see, the enemy didn't just try to discourage you, he tried to dismantle your sense of identity. Because if you never know who you are, you'll never step into what's yours. If you never recognize the authority you carry, you'll keep asking for permission to walk in rooms you were born to lead. But God is reversing the lies. He's tearing down false narratives and rewriting your foundation. You're not who they said you were. You're not your trauma. You're not your failure. You're not the mistake you made, or the labels they gave. You are who heaven says you are, called, holy, set apart, redeemed. And even now, as you read this, the Spirit of God is pulling back the layers, exposing the wounds that masked your identity, shining light into the corners where doubt still whispers. Scripture reveals in the book of Isaiah, chapter 62, verse 2, "You will be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow." And that's what God is doing in you. He's giving you your name back, your real one, the name attached to your assignment, the one that hell feared you'd remember. You are not too broken. End quote. You are not too late. End quote. You are not too much. End quote. You are exactly the vessel God chose to carry His glory into spaces religion has failed to reach. You were forged in fire so you could lead others through it. And every identity crisis you've endured has only refined your understanding of the truth. What tried to define you no longer holds power. Not the absent parent, not the abusive mentor, not the silence in the church, not the shame in your past. Because the hand of God has rewritten your history with mercy. And He's calling the real you to rise. Not the version you created to survive. Not the mask you wore to stay accepted. But the you that's bold. The you that carries fire. The you that is not afraid to disrupt atmospheres. This is why the resistance has been so strong. The enemy hoped the pressure would make you walk away. He hoped you'd believe the lie that you were disqualified. But you didn't quit. You're still standing. And the fact that you're still here means something powerful. You're not behind schedule. You're right on time. The warfare didn't erase your calling, it exposed it. And now, your identity is not just theory, it's tested. You know who you are because of what you've been through. You've been through fire. And the only thing that burned were the chains. The only thing that broke were the lies. And now, you're free to be the original you, the dangerous you the world needs. If you're reading this and something inside you is resonating, if you know deep down the enemy tried to erase your name before you ever learned to speak, then let heaven and hell both see your agreement. Comment the number 888 below. Not because it's a number, but because it's a declaration. I reclaim who I am. 888 represents new beginnings, a divine reset, a return to your original design. When you type it, you're not just engaging, you're aligning. You're saying, I will no longer live under labels that God never wrote. And from this moment forward, walk like you know who you are. Speak like the chosen one you've always been. Stand like the storm couldn't steal your name. Because it didn't. It refined it. There's a roar rising again. You've felt it building quietly beneath the surface like a tremor deep in the earth of your spirit. It doesn't make sense to your mind, but your soul knows what it is. The part of you that has been silent for years is waking up. The part you shut down to survive. The part you buried under fear, rejection, and disappointment. The part that used to dream wildly, pray boldly, believe fiercely. It's not gone, it's been waiting. There's something sacred about the moment when the buried parts of you start to breathe again. When the voice you silenced suddenly starts whispering truth again. Not the voice of shame, not the voice of guilt, but the voice of your spirit, the one made in the image of God, filled with fire and purpose. You're not losing your mind. You're regaining your roar, because even silence, for the chosen ones, is not passive. It's loaded with tension. You never stopped being who you were. You just pressed pause on expressing it, not because you lacked truth, but because life taught you that being fully alive was too risky. You were too much, too loud, too intense, too sensitive. So, you shrunk. But that version of you, it was never real. It was a survival shell. And God never designed you to live in survival. He designed you for dominion. That stir you feel inside, that tension between where you are and what you know is in you, that's your roar trying to come back. That's the original you, the one God spoke into existence, rising from the ashes of delay, fear, and disappointment, not to be loud for loudness' sake, but to walk again in spiritual volume, a life that speaks, even in stillness. You may have lost your voice for a season, but it's not gone. It's just been maturing, learning when to roar and when to rest, learning the difference between being loud and being clear, because what's rising in you now isn't just noise, it's revelation. And when revelation starts to rise, everything around you has to adjust. That's why things have been feeling off, why you've been restless, why comfort no longer feels like peace. Because your current environment was never designed to contain your next dimension. You've outgrown it, not in arrogance, but in assignment. What used to be enough now feels too small. What used to satisfy now leaves you hungry. That's not dissatisfaction, It's spiritual growth. The roar inside you is not coming back the same way it left. It's coming back with focus, with refinement, with weight. You don't just want to speak anymore, you want to build. You don't want noise, you want impact. You don't want attention, you want authority. And authority doesn't come from platforms. It comes from process, from the crushing, from the tears no one saw, from the prayers you prayed when you didn't even have words, just groans. That roar was forged in private long before it will be released in public. The world has no idea what's about to rise out of you, because when a chosen one finds their voice again, it doesn't just liberate them, it liberates everyone connected to them. Your freedom is contagious. Your healing becomes a roadmap for others. Your roar isn't just for you, it's a sound of war that signals breakthrough for those still in chains. You won't need to explain yourself this time. You won't need to beg for people to understand. The roar in you will speak for itself. It will break atmospheres. It will shut down confusion. It will awaken what's been sleeping. And no, not everyone will like it. Not everyone will applaud it. But they won't be able to ignore it. Because when a chosen one roars, hell backs up. Shame loses its grip. Fear has to leave the room. The scriptures speak boldly in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 16. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. The roar that's rising in you now is not ego, it's legacy. You've been silent long enough. You've walked on eggshells long enough. You've tolerated confusion long enough. This is the return of your true voice, the one the enemy tried to bury, the one religion tried to silence, the one fear tried to mute. But it's back. And this time, you're not asking permission. You're not roaring for recognition. You're roaring because you remember. You remember who you are. You remember what God said. You remember the promise. You remember the fire. You remember that you were never meant to blend in. You were born to disrupt. And this time, when you roar, heaven will echo. You've been on the edge of awakening for longer than you realize. It's that lingering tension you've carried, the sense that something is shifting, but you can't quite name it. The feeling that your spirit is leaning forward, waiting for something, reaching for something, even while your natural world looks unchanged. You've gone through your days feeling both full and empty, hungry and tired, still and stirred, as if something is coming, but hasn't yet broken through the surface. That's because you're standing in the thin space between what was and what will be. Heaven has been circling your life, preparing the atmosphere. You've felt the pressure, the discomfort, the discontent. But it's not the result of chaos, it's the residue of transformation. You're not falling apart. You're being rearranged, rebuilt, recalled to the version of you that never should have gone silent. Sometimes awakening doesn't come like a shout. It comes like a whisper that refuses to die. It shows up in strange ways, like tears that don't have a clear reason, or dreams that echo louder than conversations. It comes in moments of stillness, when you suddenly feel everything you've avoided for years. It shows up in random scriptures, in a stranger's word, in that quiet voice that says, "There's more than this." You've tried to silence it. You've tried to reason your way out of it. You've said, "Now's not the time," or "maybe later when I'm ready." But the pull hasn't stopped. Because this isn't ambition. This isn't hype. This is divine pursuit. Heaven is waiting for your yes. Not the half-hearted yes of convenience, not the fearful yes that waits for confirmation after confirmation, but the real yes, the kind that says, even if I lose comfort, I won't lose my calling. And there is a moment when all the internal wrestling stops and surrender takes its place. That moment is where awakening lives. And you're not far from it. You're standing right at the edge of it. God has been gently pressing on the doors of your soul. He hasn't forced anything open. He's too kind for that. But He's been present, waiting, hovering, stirring the waters. And when you finally open that door, even just a crack, everything changes. In the sacred writings of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20, we read, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in." That's where you are now, not at the end, not in delay, but at the door. The tension you've been feeling isn't the enemy. It's the pressure of the door being pushed from both sides, God pressing in, and your spirit pressing out. The noise of your mind may have tried to drown it out, but the sound of heaven is always persistent, always personal. You've outgrown your old hiding places. The excuses don't satisfy like they used to. The distractions are losing their grip. You're not fulfilled by the things that once numbed you, because your spirit is starving for purpose, real purpose. And God will never let His chosen ones stay asleep forever. He loves you too much to leave you in the shallows. That's why you feel the ache. That's why you can't unhear what you've heard or unsee what you've seen. You've tasted the edge of something sacred, and nothing else compares. Now the only way forward is through full surrender. You may feel unready, unqualified, still messy. But heaven is not looking for perfection, it's looking for permission. Permission to ignite what's been buried. Permission to breathe on dry bones. Permission to awaken the raw. Permission to bring you into alignment. Even if it costs everything familiar, because that edge you're standing on, it's not a cliff, it's a threshold. On the other side of your yes is not chaos. It's clarity, not shame. It's assignment, not fear. It's fire. And no one else can walk through that threshold for you. No one else can say the yes that unlocks your next season. The invitation is personal, and time does not make it louder. Obedience does. What you're feeling isn't just emotion, it's eternity brushing against your timeline, reminding you that you're part of something much bigger than comfort. You're part of a divine story that's about to unfold in ways you never expected, and it all begins with yes. That one word has the power to shake your foundations, shift your atmosphere, and unlock the version of you that has been waiting to emerge all along. You've cried in caves too long, too many nights, too many moments. You found yourself hidden in places that weren't home, places you retreated to out of fear, disappointment, and exhaustion. Not because you were weak, but because you were weary, and in that weariness, you chose survival over visibility. You chose silence over warfare. You chose isolation over vulnerability. And now, it's time to come out, not just physically, but spiritually. There's a type of cave no one else can see, the one built in the mind, the one protected by logic and wrapped in, "I'm fine." The one where trauma becomes comfort and potential stays trapped in the dark. You've decorated that cave with memories and regrets. You've called it wisdom when really, it's been fear. But God never assigned you to that cave. He called you to the mountain. You are not meant to stay hidden. The enemy convinced you that silence was safety, that hiding was holy, that shrinking was spiritual. But the truth is, your retreat was never about holiness, it was heartbreak. It wasn't obedience, it was self-preservation. And while God allowed the cave for a moment of rest, He never meant for it to become your permanent address. Even prophets get tired. Elijah did. He called down fire one moment and ran into a cave the next. He felt alone, afraid, done. He asked God to take his life. But God didn't answer his despair with death. He answered it with direction. He told Elijah to get up, to come out, because the assignment wasn't finished, and neither is yours. As it is written in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 11, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. That's the moment you're in. The presence of the Lord is moving past your cave, not to punish you, but to awaken you, to remind you that even in your lowest place, He still knows where you are. He's not angry at your hiding, He's calling you out of it, because your voice still matters. Your fire still burns. Your calling is still active. Your story is not over. You've been hiding what was holy, dimming what was divine, suppressing what was sacred. You've called yourself disqualified when all heaven ever called you was chosen. And now, the cave can no longer contain who you're becoming. It's not that God forgot you, it's that He protected you in hiding until the time was right. But the time is now. This is your awakening moment. The air is shifting. The light is breaking through. What used to be comfortable now feels tight. What used to feel like safety now feels like suffocation. That's the evidence. The cave can't hold you anymore. Your spirit is pressing against its walls. There are things in you that are about to break out: revelation, creativity, clarity, authority. The version of you that's been buried under fear is coming back with focus. You may have gone into hiding with wounds, but you're coming out with weapons. And those who counted you out, they didn't see what God was doing in the dark, because He's always worked in the hidden places, in the womb, in the soil, in the cave. He was forming you, not forgetting you. And now, what He formed in private is about to be revealed in public, not for applause, but for impact. So this time, don't go back to the cave. Don't retreat when it gets uncomfortable. Don't silence yourself when the room gets quiet. Stand tall. Step forward. Speak again. Pray again. Build again. Worship like the cave never swallowed you. Because it didn't. You survived it. You learned in it. But now you're leaving it. If this word pierced the deepest part of you, if it echoed the ache you've been carrying in silence, then say it with your spirit and your voice. Comment below. No more caves. M6, because the days of hiding are over. The days of shrinking are done. This time, the world will see the one God never stopped calling, even in the dark. When you type those words, you're not just making a comment, you're breaking an agreement with fear. You're stepping out of the mindset that told you small was safe. You're telling every lie that kept you bound, no more. It's your declaration that you're done with delay, done with silence, and done letting your history define your destiny. Heaven sees it, and hell hears it. You are carrying mantles, and that weight you feel isn't pressure. It's purpose. There's a reason your spirit stays alert, even when your body is tired. There's a reason you've always felt like you were carrying more than your age, your position, or your season should require. Because you are. You're not just living, you're carrying legacy. You're not just surviving, you're stewarding something sacred. You are marked. And what's on you didn't come from man, it came from God. He placed something eternal on your life that cannot be manufactured or mimicked. You didn't earn it. You didn't audition for it. It was placed on you in silence and affirmed in suffering. That's why your life has never fit into simple categories. You've been walking around wearing something invisible but heavy, divine, yet misunderstood. That's what a mantle feels like. It doesn't flatter your ego, it presses on your spirit. It doesn't make you feel bigger, it humbles you. Reminds you that what you're carrying is bigger than you. This is why isolation has chased you. This is why warfare has followed you. The enemy knows that mantled ones don't just influence a room, they shift generations. And shifting is costly. You've lost some things while carrying this. Time, friends, opportunities, even clarity. But you didn't lose your yes. You didn't lay it down. And even when you questioned it, when you almost gave it back, something in you knew, this is not mine to quit. This is not about preference, it's about purpose. You've been assigned, and the evidence is undeniable. You feel the pull, even when no one's watching. You feel the burden for people who don't even know your name. You feel the ache to intercede, to protect, to speak truth when others stay silent. It's not because you're intense, it's because you're anointed. You're not overreacting. You're carrying oil, the kind that was crushed out of you in silent seasons, the kind that doesn't look impressive on the outside, but makes demons tremble in the spirit. You're not just gifted, you're chosen. And gifts can entertain, but mantles break chains. We read in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 13. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. He didn't just inherit a title, he inherited a weight, and so did you. You've picked up things others left behind. You've carried what wasn't fashionable. You've chosen consecration over compromise. And though you may not have received public affirmation, you've earned heaven's attention. The secret battles you've won are the reason doors will open with no explanation. Because God saw your yes when it was costly. This isn't a season to second-guess your mantle. This is the season to step into it fully. Not with arrogance, but with alignment. Not to prove something, but to fulfill something. Because what you've been carrying quietly is about to be needed publicly. You don't need a stage, you just need surrender. And heaven will make room for what you've protected in private. So hear me clearly, what's on your life matters. It's rare, it's weighty, and it's ready to move. If this message has been confirming what you've already known in your spirit, if it feels like the words are naming what you've only whispered to God, don't stay silent. Like this word, share it. Subscribe, not because of personality, but because of presence. Because there's a remnant rising, and the more connected we are, the more powerful we become. There's a sound coming from the mantled ones, and you're part of it. And if this word has touched you deeply, if it reminded you of what you've carried in secret, you can sow into this space. Give not out of pressure, but out of purpose. When you partner with the mantle, you help extend it further. You help ensure that this message reaches others who feel unseen, under pressure, and called. Your giving turns reach into revival. This isn't about supporting a personality. It's about fueling a prophetic movement. Every prayer, every comment, every seed, every subscription, it all matters. Because we're not playing church here. We're stewarding a divine assignment. We're breaking generational silence. We're raising up voices that carry weight, not just noise. And you? You are one of them. So, walk like it, pray like it, build like it, speak like it. Because the mantle on your life was never meant to be managed, it was meant to be released. You were never just called to carry it. You were born to walk in it boldly. And the time is now. There is a cost to clarity. The more clearly you begin to see who you are, the more uncomfortable your surroundings become. And it's not because you've changed for the worse. It's because your vision has sharpened. Your ears have tuned in. Your discernment has matured. And when clarity increases, compromise becomes obvious. You can't unsee what God has revealed. It's why the conversations that once excited you now drain you. Why the places you used to run to now feel foreign. Why the people you once leaned on now feel like echoes of an old version of you. When God sharpens your clarity, He doesn't ask your comfort for permission. He starts pulling you into alignment with what He always intended. And the pull can feel like loss. Because clarity doesn't just bring vision, it brings separation. Not always with bitterness, but often with necessity. You can't carry old weights into new atmospheres. You can't bring confusion into a space of divine strategy. And as painful as it is, sometimes God allows people to misunderstand you so that you'll stop shrinking to be understood. You're not being punished. You're being purified. The weight you're feeling in this season isn't judgment, it's adjustment. You're being refined for something that's bigger than what you've settled for. This is not the season to cling to what's familiar just because it's predictable. This is the season to trust what's forming, even when you can't fully name it yet. Clarity is a gift, but it's also a sword. It will cut through cycles. It will slice away distraction. It will separate truth from tradition. And when it does, it will feel like tearing, but it's actually healing. Because God is not interested in preserving your comfort if it means compromising your calling. Sometimes the clearest sign of your growth is your inability to tolerate what once held you. You've been chosen to build in a way that requires focus. You can't afford divided loyalties. You can't afford blurred lines. There's too much at stake. The vision you carry is not common, and neither is your process. This is why isolation hits harder when clarity comes, because you're no longer in the crowd, and you haven't yet arrived at the council. You're somewhere in between, but you're not lost. You're in transit. This space of transition is holy. It's where God clears your field of vision, strips away counterfeit supports, and recenters your identity. It's not the valley of death, it's the valley of definition. He's defining you again, quietly, precisely, so that when He launches you, your voice doesn't echo confusion, it echoes conviction. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 2 speaks clearly. Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. N. Before you can run, you must see. Before you can build, you must discern. Before you can speak, you must understand. And understanding requires stillness. That's why you've been sensing God calling you away from the noise, not because He's isolating you, but because He's instructing you. You were never called to run with every crowd. You were called to run with clarity. And that clarity will offend those who were more comfortable with your confusion They will ask why you've changed, why you've become distant, why you don't respond the way you used to. But you're not being rude, you're being refined. You're not cold, you're called. Clarity costs, but compromise costs more. So, don't apologize for walking away from what no longer aligns. Don't justify the pruning. Don't explain the fire. Let the results speak. Let the fruit testify. You don't owe everyone access to what God whispered in secret. Your vision is sacred. Guard it, because in time, those who once doubted your silence will witness your emergence, and they'll realize that what they thought was isolation was actually preparation. So keep your hands clean. Keep your spirit pure. Stay in position. And when it gets lonely, remember, even Jesus went to the mountain alone to pray. He wasn't escaping, he was sharpening. And so are you. You're not losing community. You're making room for the right one. You're not walking in confusion. You're walking in clarity. And clarity doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. So when the pressure comes, when the silence feels sharp, when the invitations stop arriving, don't panic. That's what clarity does. It exposes. It separates. It refines. But it also prepares. The weight you're feeling is not rejection, it's God, making sure that when the door opens, you are not just present, you are ready to reign. You are not just breaking cycles, you are birthing legacies. There are things ending with you that were never supposed to continue. Patterns that should have died generations ago, but were passed down in silence. Cycles of dysfunction, fear, addiction, compromise, religion without revelation, success without integrity, relationships without covenant, things that became normal but were never God. And now, you are the interruption. You've probably wondered why your life has been marked by resistance from the very beginning, why peace seemed elusive, why certain battles have followed you even when you tried to live right, why your process has been longer, harder, more confusing than those around you. It's because you weren't born to repeat, you were born to rebuild. You carry a generational assignment. You've been entrusted to confront what others tolerated, to confront systems and spiritual strongholds that felt permanent but were never divine. This is not just about your story. This is about what flows through your story. You're not just walking in freedom for yourself. You are unlocking doors for those behind you. Your yes is the key that sets others free. This is why the pressure has been so precise. Why the enemy tried to choke your identity before you even discovered your authority. Because if you ever figured out who you really are, the cycles would break. The curses would stop. The patterns would be exposed. And hell has been terrified of that moment. Guess what? That moment is now. The atmosphere around you has already begun to shift. You can sense it even when things look the same externally. Your spirit knows what your eyes don't yet see. This is not the same cycle. It's a new season. You're not spinning. You're stepping forward. The air feels different. The tension feels familiar, but this time, you have wisdom. This time, you're not just reacting, you're discerning. You're not just surviving, you're commanding. You're not just holding on, you're taking territory. You are the cycle breaker, and it may not feel glorious. Sometimes it just feels lonely, because being the first means being the one who goes without a blueprint. It means facing what others ignored. It means walking away from what's comfortable, without applause, without understanding. But heaven says it. and history will remember it. Scripture speaks through the prophet Isaiah in chapter 58. Verse 12, "You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in." Andep, that's you. A restorer, a builder, not just of buildings, but of bloodlines, not just of dreams, but of DNA. You're restoring what sin corrupted, repairing what silence left broken, laying foundations for a future your ancestors only prayed for. That's why you've been under pressure that doesn't match your surroundings, because your spirit has been carrying a weight generations deep. You're pushing against spiritual ceilings that others surrendered to. You're reclaiming territory others abandoned. You're planting seeds in ground that looked barren because you believe something can still grow. And it can, because you're the one watering it. So don't let weariness rob you of clarity. Don't let the whisper of, "It's too much," drown out the roar of, "I was born for this." Because you were. You were born to outlive the curse, to outpray the pattern, to outlast the storm. You've cried over things no one knows about, labored in silence, made hard decisions that no one celebrated. But God saw, and heaven recorded every moment of obedience. You are not invisible in the kingdom. You are a threat in the spirit. And if something in you knows this word is for you, if you can feel the weight of generations turning when you move, then mark this moment. Comment the number 444 below. This is not just a number, it's a prophetic declaration. 444 mains alignement. Foundation and governmental authority. When you type it, you're agreeing with heaven. I am the foundation layer. I am aligned with divine order. I walk in kingdom authority. Oh, this is more than a comment. It's a commitment to not repeat what broke you, to not shrink back when others run, to not let history define destiny, to build something future generations will thank God for. You are the chosen interruption, and the cycle ends with you. Comment 444 below. Because when you type it, you're doing more than engaging a post. You're entering alignment with heaven's architecture. The number 444 is a prophetic symbol of divine order, firm foundations, and apostolic authority. It's heaven's way of saying, you are not just breaking down, you're building up. You're not just resisting, you're redefining bloodlines. Some lessons cannot be taught, only survived. You've been through things that books couldn't prepare you for. You've endured emotional earthquakes that shook the foundations of your identity. You've walked through betrayals so personal that they left no visible bruise but tore you apart on the inside. And still you're here. You didn't come through untouched, but you came through undefeated. The scars on your life are not signs of weakness, they are sacred evidence. Evidence that what tried to kill you failed, that what was sent to silence you only made you more aware, that what was designed to break you became the fire that built you. These scars, they're holy ground. They tell a story no enemy can erase. There's a depth in you now that didn't exist before the storm. And that depth, that's where the oil came from. You weren't crushed for nothing. Every tear you sowed in secret is producing oil. Oil for others. Oil for healing. Oil for clarity. Oil for warfare. That's why your journey couldn't be easy. That's why shortcuts weren't an option. You had to walk it. You had to feel every ache. Because now, when you speak, you don't speak theory, you speak authority. People don't need more surface voices. They need voices that carry weight, And weight is forged in warfare. You have that weight now. You carry the kind of voice that doesn't just sound good, it shakes things. The kind of presence that silences chaos. The kind of discernment that exposes lies in rooms full of smiling faces. And it's not because you're suspicious, it's because you've been there. You've seen what pretense produces. You've watched how wolves wear religious clothing. And now, you don't need a pulpit to be powerful. Your life is the sermon. That's the beauty of surviving what others assumed would destroy you. You don't just come out, you come out refined, wiser, quieter in some ways, louder in others, less attached to people's opinions, more devoted to heaven's voice. You've tasted fake peace and real warfare, and now your appetite is different. You don't crave what you used to. You crave truth now. And truth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's disruptive. Sometimes it breaks your heart before it heals your mind. But it always sets you free. And you, chosen one, have been called to carry that truth, even when it costs you everything else. That's why your circle is smaller now. Why certain doors no longer feel like opportunities. Why crowds no longer impress you. Because truth has become your compass. And once truth owns your heart, lies lose their power over your mind. You can sense it now when something is off. You no longer ignore the stirring in your gut. Because you've learned the hard way that ignoring discernment always leads to damage. You're not paranoid. You're trained. Trained by fire. Trained by silence. Trained by disappointment. Trained by grace. You don't need titles to be valid. You don't need affirmation to be activated. You don't need permission to obey God. Because the same fire that almost broke you also baptized you in boldness. Now you walk different. You listen deeper. You pray with intention. You don't play games with spiritual warfare. You recognize the cost of every compromise. And you refuse to live halfway between freedom and fear. The book of James, chapter 1, verse 12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." You didn't just survive the trial, you stood in it. You didn't just endure, you grew. You didn't lose your mind, you found your mantle. There's a maturity on you now that only pain could have produced. You don't rush to respond. You pause. You pray. You wait. Because you've learned that true strength isn't loud, it's disciplined. That real anointing isn't proven by performance. It's proven in private when no one claps but heaven. So don't resent the fire. It didn't just reveal you, it refined you. You came out with substance, with soundness, with a sword. The kind of sword that doesn't need to swing wildly to be effective. It only needs to be present to cause darkness to step back. You are not fragile anymore. You are fire-tested. You are not confused anymore. You are focused. You are not broken anymore. You are built. And everything that tried to destroy you, it simply couldn't. Because what God ordains, He protects even in the fire. You are not behind, you are hidden. Let that truth settle deep into your bones. Because the enemy's greatest lie in this season has been this: you've missed it. You're too late. It should have happened by now. That lie has echoed in your mind during quiet nights, in long seasons of waiting, in the stillness after prayers that seem unanswered. But hear this clearly: you are not disqualified. You are in development. God hides what He values. He conceals what He's crafting. Diamonds are not formed in daylight. They are forged in the dark, under pressure, beneath the surface. And the same is true of you. This hidden season you've been walking through, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You've been mistaking silence for abandonment. But silence is where prophets are shaped. In the hidden place, your motives are refined. In the hidden place, your character is built. In the hidden place, your ears are trained to recognize God's voice over every other sound. While the world runs toward noise and validation, God is drawing you deeper, away from applause, away from distraction, into the womb of transformation. You've asked, why hasn't it happened yet? But God is saying, because I'm not just preparing the moment for you, I'm preparing you for the moment. And there is nothing delayed about your destiny. Heaven has not forgotten you. The timetable of eternity does not operate by public timelines or social benchmarks. You are not waiting, you are being witnessed. Every unseen act of obedience, every private sacrifice, every silent yes when no one was looking, heaven saw it. And heaven is building you in layers. This is why you've been invisible in rooms you should have stood out in. Why doors that looked right never opened. Why opportunities evaporated just when you felt ready. Not because you're cursed, but because your timing is protected. Sometimes, God closes a door not to keep you out, but to keep you safe. There are stages you weren't meant to stand on. Relationships you weren't meant to carry. Platforms that would have suffocated your soul before your voice could grow strong enough to carry His word. You weren't overlooked. You were shielded. And now, something is shifting. Quietly, deeply. Not on Instagram. Not in headlines. But in your spirit. That sense of anticipation isn't hype, it's alignment. You're not being elevated yet. Because God is still adding weight to your words. He's still fortifying the foundation. So when you do rise, you will not collapse. You won't be the shooting star that shines for a moment and disappears. You'll be a slow burn torch lit by God, unshaken by man, immune to hype. And those who thought you were out of the picture will soon realize you were just getting ready. Scripture whispers this truth in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 80. And the child grew and became strong in spirit, and he lived in the wilderness until he appeared publicly to Israel. Even Jesus, the Messiah himself, was hidden until the time appointed. 30 years of silence. No platform, no miracles, just development, just obedience, just growth. If the Son of God wasn't rushed, why do you think your delay means denial? Your wilderness season isn't a waste, it's a womb. And what's growing in you will outlast trends. It will carry glory. It will bear fruit that remains. So, don't despise this hiddenness. Let it work in you. Let it sharpen your discernment. Deepen your roots. Stretch your patience. God hides His weapons until it's time for war. And you, chosen one, are being sharpened for impact. Don't seek visibility, seek substance. Because when the time comes, you won't need to promote yourself. God will pull you from the shadows and into the spotlight, not for your name, but for His purpose. And when that moment comes, you won't walk in guessing. You'll walk in authority. You won't need to scramble to prepare. You are the preparation. Your life has been the training ground. Your prayers have been the oil. Your silence has been the soil. So, the next time the enemy whispers, You're behind. M. Respond with truth. I'm not behind. I'm hidden, and I'm being built to last. M. And when God reveals you, the world will not see someone desperate to be seen. They will see someone forged in fire, anchored in truth, and ready to reign. Because this silence wasn't rejection, it was divine strategy. You weren't hidden to be forgotten. You were hidden to be unshakable. You are a torchbearer, a light carried through the darkest nights. The enemy fears what you carry because it's real. It's fire handed down from heaven, not just passion from within. You aren't just glowing, you're burning with purpose. And that flame will never be extinguished by doubt, delay, or denial. Every step you've taken, every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've cried in secret has been fueling this fire. You are not the leftover or the latecomer, you are the marked one, appointed to carry light where darkness once ruled. And this season, that light is ready to shine brighter than ever. But here's the thing about light. It demands attention. It reveals hidden things. It calls out the shadows. And sometimes, it makes others uncomfortable. That's why your journey hasn't been easy. The path of the torchbearer is rarely smooth. It's full of opposition, full of tests, full of moments when the flame seems flickering. But remember, the torch never goes out because of the wind. It goes out only when it's no longer being carried. You've carried it faithfully. You've refused to put it down when the world told you to be quiet. You've held tight when voices tried to make you doubt your calling. You've kept walking when the way forward wasn't clear. And God has been preparing you not just to survive, but to lead. The book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 1 declares, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" You don't need to fear the opposition because the light on you is stronger than the darkness around you. You are protected by the same fire that fueled the prophets, the apostles, the giants of faith who changed the course of history. This isn't just your fire, it's God's fire on you. So don't heed it. If this word is stirring your spirit, if you feel the flame burning hotter right now, don't let it stay silent. Like this message, share it with those who need to be reminded of their light. Because there is a community rising, a remnant of torchbearers who refuse to be extinguished. And if you haven't already, subscribe to stay connected to this movement of light, strength, and spiritual awakening. The journey ahead will require steadfastness and connection to those who understand the weight and glory of this calling. And for those who feel led to partner with this message through giving, know this: every seed sown extends the flame. Your contribution sends light into dark places, reaching those still trapped in shadows, still waiting to discover their purpose. Give as you're led, not out of obligation, but as an act of worship and partnership in God's work. You're not just a receiver, you're a carrier, a transmitter, a beacon. And this fire you carry, it will ignite 1,000 others. It will burn away lies, heal brokenness, and illuminate new paths. This is your divine inheritance, passed down by God's hand, guarded by heaven's angels, and entrusted to you for such a time as this. If you feel the truth of this word, take a moment now to comment, "I carry the flame." Let this declaration mark your heart and align your spirit with the burning purpose inside you. It's not just a comment, it's a spiritual activation. Because light demands response. You were never made to be dimmed. You were made to be a torchbearer, and the world needs your light now more than ever. If this word is stirring your spirit, if you feel the flame burning hotter right now, don't let it stay silent. Like this message, share it with those who need to be reminded of their light. Every time you engage, you're not just supporting content, you're fueling a movement of believers who refuse to be dimmed, who stand boldly in their divine calling, no matter the opposition. Imagine what happens when one torchbearer lights another soon. Whole communities are illuminated, darkness retreats, and hope floods in. Your simple act of liking or sharing becomes part of that divine chain reaction. You are not just a passive observer, you are a vital link in God's plan to awaken a generation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to stay connected with this flow of prophetic insight, encouragement, and spiritual activation. When you subscribe, you position yourself to receive fresh word that sharpens your spirit and fuels your purpose, keeping your flame burning strong even in challenging seasons. If you feel led, partner with this mission through giving. Your seed goes beyond videos and words. It reaches the hearts of those still searching, healing, and rising. Together, we are torchbearers lighting the way. So don't wait, step fully into your calling. Comment, "I carry the flame now," and declare your readiness to shine boldly. The world is waiting for your light. There is a sacred tension in your journey, a space between who you were and who you are becoming. You've carried burdens that no one else could see. You've felt the weight of expectations, some spoken, many unspoken, pressing down on your spirit. And in the quiet moments, you've wrestled with questions that have no easy answers. Why is this path so hard? Why am I still waiting? Why do I feel so alone, even when surrounded by people? These questions aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of growth. Growth is never comfortable. It stretches you beyond the limits you once knew. It demands more of your faith, your patience, your resilience. But it also reveals your capacity, the depth of strength and grace within you. It is in this tension that transformation happens. It's the place where God works quietly but powerfully. You're being refined, not rejected. Every season of waiting, every moment of uncertainty, every trial you've endured is a part of God's process to make you into the vessel He intended. The pain is not wasted. The struggle is not in vain. Even when it feels like you're on the edge of giving up, the Spirit is shaping you for greater things. Remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. You are being pressed so that you can reflect the light of heaven more brilliantly. The harder the pressure, the brighter the diamond. And God is polishing you now, removing every rough edge, strengthening your core, preparing you to shine with unmatched radiance. The process is often hidden. You don't always see what's happening beneath the surface. But rest assured, the work is real. We read in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who endures temptation, for after standing the test, they will receive the crown of life promised by the Lord." You've endured much, but it has produced perseverance in you, a steadfastness that refuses to quit. That perseverance has built character, a deep, godly maturity that cannot be faked or hurried. And that character gives birth to hope, the confident expectation of God's promises fulfilled. Hope is the light in the darkness. It keeps you moving forward when the path seems unclear. It reminds you that your story is not over, that the delays are not denials, that the silence before breakthrough is part of the divine rhythm. You are not stuck, you are being prepared. Sometimes, it feels like you're caught between seasons. The old has passed, but the new hasn't fully arrived. This space can be disorienting, even lonely, but it's also sacred. It's the birthplace of miracles, the incubator of destiny, the quiet before the shout. God is crafting something extraordinary in you. You may not know the full picture yet, but your faith is not in what you see. It's in who God is and the promises He has spoken over your life. He is faithful to complete what He began, and your calling is too important to be sidelined by delay. Lean into this season with trust. Even when it feels uncomfortable, rest in the assurance that God's timing is perfect. His ways are higher than ours, and He is using every moment to build you up, not break you down. You are being transformed into a reflection of His glory, a vessel of His power, a testimony of His faithfulness. Hold on to that truth. Hold on to the hope that refuses to fade, because the breakthrough you're longing for is coming stronger, deeper, and more glorious than you've imagined. And when it arrives, you will know that every step in this sacred tension was worth it. This sacred tension you're in is not a pause, it's a powerful preparation. Every moment of waiting, every whisper of doubt, every tear shed in silence is being woven into the fabric of your destiny. God is not merely waiting on you, He is working in you, molding your heart, strengthening your spirit, and aligning your steps with His perfect will. When breakthrough comes, and it will, it won't be by chance or coincidence. It will be the result of the faithful endurance you're cultivating now. You are not moving backward, you are ascending. Hold fast to hope. Even when the path seems unclear, guard your faith. Even when the night feels long, because your story is being rewritten in ways your eyes have yet to see. And the glory ahead will make every moment of struggle worth it. Stay steadfast. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. You have arrived at the threshold, the place where everything changes. This is the moment that your spirit has long anticipated. The crossroads between the old and the new, the familiar and the unknown. You stand here, not by accident, but by divine appointment. God has led you step by step, trial by trial, preparation by preparation, to this very place. The place where your past meets your purpose, and your scars become your strength. It is here that your true identity is revealed, not the identity shaped by circumstance, pain, or misunderstanding, but the identity crafted by the hand of the Creator. You are no longer defined by what you have endured, but by who you are becoming. You are a masterpiece in progress, a warrior equipped, a light destined to shine with unstoppable brilliance. The journey was not easy. It was filled with moments when giving up seemed like the only option, but you persevered. You held on when the darkness threatened to overwhelm you. You chose faith over fear, obedience over comfort, and hope over despair. Every step has prepared you for this awakening. Now, everything converges. You are more than a survivor, you are a conqueror. You do not just walk, you advance with authority. You do not just speak, your words carry power. You are a beacon of hope, a testimony of God's unfailing faithfulness. Your life is a living declaration that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, that your destiny cannot be stolen, as it is written in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And this is the new thing God is doing in you. A breakthrough, a transformation, a release of what has been held captive. The wilderness of your past is becoming a pathway of promise. The deserts of your soul are being watered with revival. You are stepping into a season where the impossible becomes possible. But with this new season comes responsibility. You are called to be a gatekeeper, a light bearer, a voice of clarity in a world desperate for truth. Your influence will extend beyond what you can see now. You will inspire, lead, and restore. Your footsteps will leave trails for others to follow. Remember, the mantle you carry is not a burden, but a blessing. The fire within you is not to be hidden, but to be shared. The purpose burning in your heart is not to be silenced, but to be proclaimed. So stand firm, stand tall, stand unshakable. The journey ahead will demand your best. It will test your resolve. It will challenge your faith. But you are ready. You have been equipped. You have been called for such a time as this. Let the world witness the glory that is rising in you. Let your life be the evidence of God's power unleashed. Let your story inspire generations. You are God's chosen one, anointed, appointed, unstoppable. Step forward with confidence. The new thing has begun. As you step forward into this new season, know that you do so not by your own strength, but by the power of the one who called you. Every step you take is backed by heaven's armies. Every breath sustained by God's unending grace. The path ahead may still hold challenges, but your faith has been forged in fire, making you unbreakable. Do not fear the unknown, for it is the canvas where God will paint his greatest works through you. What once seemed impossible will become your testimony. The battles you fought in silence will become the songs of victory sung loudly. The wounds you carried will be transformed into your greatest badges of honor. Your light will not just illuminate your own path, but will guide others out of darkness. You are a living beacon, a divine testimony to God's faithfulness, power, and love. The legacy you build will ripple beyond your lifetime, inspiring generations yet to come. So, walk boldly, speak clearly, live courageously. The world is waiting for the fullness of what God has placed within you. You are not here by chance, you are here by divine design. This is your moment. Your destiny awaits. Step into your calling with joy and confidence. The best is yet to come. Remember, your journey is not solitary. Heaven walks beside you. Angels surround you. And the Spirit empowers you. You are equipped, anointed, and unstoppable. Embrace your destiny fully. The world is ready for the glory you carry. You have reached the end of this divine journey, yet it is only the beginning of what God is doing in and through you. If this message has stirred your spirit, awakened a fire, or reminded you of the powerful calling upon your life, don't let it fade away, unnoticed. Like this message, share it with those who need to hear this truth today. Your engagement is more than clicks. It's a spiritual partnership that helps this word travel to other God's chosen ones waiting to be awakened. Every comment below is a declaration, a spiritual activation, a step into destiny. So, take a moment now to comment what this word means to you, your faith, your breakthrough, your testimony. Your voice could be the spark that lights someone else's flame. If you haven't subscribed yet, join this growing community of believers who refuse to settle for less than God's best. Stay connected to fresh, prophetic insight, encouragement, and revelations that keep your faith sharp and your spirit alive. And if the Lord leads you, consider partnering through giving, not as an obligation, but as an act of worship. Your seed extends this message beyond screens and across continents, reaching those who need hope, healing, and breakthrough. Together, we are carrying the torch of revival. Remember, this is not just a channel or a message. It's a movement, a divine call for God's chosen ones to rise up boldly, walk in authority, and change the world. Thank you for being part of this sacred journey. Keep shining. Keep walking. Your best days are ahead.